Go ahead. Open that one drawer in your kitchen. You know the one. It's filled with tangled charging cables, a couple of dead AA batteries, and that old smartphone you haven't touched since 2019. To you, it's a graveyard of obsolete tech. It's junk, it's clutter you'll eventually get around to throwing away. But here's the deal. To the world's most powerful corporations and geopolitical strategists, that drawer isn't a mess. It's a high-stakes goldmine, and they're getting desperate to get their hands on it. We've been conditioned to think that technology loses all its value the second the screen cracks or the battery stops holding a charge. But the math has changed drastically. Let's look at the numbers. The global value of raw materials sitting in our e-waste has hit a staggering $91 billion. That's more than the GDP of many nations. And it's not just gold and silver we're talking about. Look at gallium. This is a mineral you've probably never heard of, but it's essential for high-end semiconductors. 3 years ago, it was a niche commodity. Today, the spot price has jumped over 740%. It's sitting at over $2,100 per kilogram. Let that sink in. Let it land. Here's where it gets strange. We are generating 62 million tons of e-waste every single year. Most of it ends up in landfills, but that trash is actually the most concentrated mineral deposit on the planet. There's more gold in a ton of old iPhones than there is in a ton of ore from a traditional gold mine. But if your old phone is suddenly worth its weight in rare earth metals, I have to ask, why are the trade-in prices you're being offered at the mall actually hitting rock bottom? If the raw materials are skyrocketing, why is your payout shrinking? That's the $500 billion question we're breaking down today. To understand why your junk is suddenly a strategic asset, we have to look at the AI boom. Everyone's talking about ChatGPT and NVIDIA's stock price, but they aren't talking about the physical reality of these systems. AI isn't just code living in the cloud, it's hardware. Massive energy-hungry data centers filled with chips like NVIDIA's Blackwell. These chips require massive amounts of copper, gallium, and germanium, and right now the supply chain is hitting a brick wall. Copper prices are at record highs, over $11,000 per ton. But the real story is germanium. The price has exploded by nearly 470% in just 3 years. Why? Because the game of global musical chairs has stopped. On December 1st, 2024, China, which controls the vast majority of these minerals, officially banned exports to the United States. They aren't just playing hardball, they've taken the ball and gone home. This is resource nationalism in its purest form. Think about that next time you see a headline about trade wars. When China freezes exports, Western tech giants are left with a massive problem. They can't dig new mines fast enough. It takes 10 to 15 years to get a traditional mine operational, so they've realized they have to find a shortcut. And that shortcut leads straight to your living room. They need the minerals that are already above ground. They need the shadow inventory, the $500 million worth of rare materials sitting in our drawers and closets. So here's where the story takes a turn. The tech industry is shifting from a selling model to a reclamation model. They don't just want to sell you a new phone, they want to ensure that they are the only ones who can harvest the old one. It's a race for resource sovereignty, and you're standing right in the middle of the track. But honestly, this is the most interesting part of the whole story. How do they plan to take it back without paying you what it's actually worth? Enter the urban miners. This isn't a guy with a pickaxe in a tunnel. These are massive conglomerates like Glencore and Umicore. They're using AI-driven robots that can strip a phone down to its motherboard in seconds, and high-pressure chemical leaching that can extract 99% of the rare earths inside. This industry is growing at nearly 50% a year. Why? Because the margins are insane. They're capturing 90+% margins by mining your trash instead of the Earth's crust. But they have a problem. They can't harvest what they can't find. That's why we're seeing a wave of new regulations that sound green, but have a very different secondary purpose. Take the Digital Product Passport, or DPP. The EU is already mandating this for batteries, and it's coming for all electronics. Every device will have a digital twin that tracks exactly what materials are inside and where that device is. It's a tracking device for the supply chain. I know, sounds like a win for sustainability, right? Well, not so fast. The industry is spending over $1 billion on these compliance systems. Why would they spend that kind of money just to be eco-friendly? They wouldn't. They're doing it because it allows them to implement what experts call the buyback trap. By tracking every gram of gallium from the factory to your house, they can create closed-loop mandates. They're setting the stage to make it legally difficult or even impossible for you to sell your old tech on a secondary market. Imagine a world where you don't own the minerals in your laptop, you're just renting the hardware, and you're contractually obligated to return it to the manufacturer so they can feed it into their urban mining machines. If you keep it, you're essentially hoarding a strategic national resource. Is this a breakthrough in green technology, or are we witnessing a modern-day resource grab by the biggest players in the game? The data suggests the latter. Let's zoom out for a second and look at some history, because this has happened before. 1849, the California gold rush. In the beginning, anyone with a tin pan and a little bit of luck could find gold in the rivers. That was placer mining. It was the era of the individual. But by 1853, the easy gold, the surface gold, was gone. What happened? Massive corporations moved in with hydraulic cannons. They used high-pressure water to blast entire hillsides apart to get the gold that individuals couldn't reach. The individual prospector was priced out, and the wealth shifted entirely to the people who owned the machinery. We are in the 1853 moment of the tech age, the era of cheap surface gold, where we could just buy new devices and ignore the old ones, is over. Urban mining is the new hydraulic cannon. It requires massive capital, complex AI sorting, and specialized chemical plants. It's a game only the giants can play. And just like in the 1850s, the average person is being locked out of the value chain. You bought the phone, you paid the premium, but you're being excluded from the massive windfall that comes when that phone is recycled. When the math stops working for the consumer, economists start sweating. And the math here is getting very lopsided. We're seeing an 88% similarity to that historical shift toward corporate resource dominance. The surface gold of the electronics world has been depleted by the AI boom and geopolitical freezes. Now the cannons are being pointed at your junk drawer. And the most fascinating part? They've managed to convince us that giving them our gold for free is actually us doing them a favor for the environment. So what does this look like for your wallet in the next 2 years? Here's the reality check. Smartphone trade-in values have already plummeted. We're looking at an average retention of just 12% of the original price. That's a nearly 20% drop in just 3 years. Manufacturers are shifting their focus away from resale and toward material recovery. They don't want your phone to be refurbished and sold to someone else. They want it melted down for its germanium and copper. Expect to see the end of cash for tech. Instead, you'll be offered recycling credits or small discounts on your next subscription. We're moving toward a future where hardware ownership is a myth. You're becoming a temporary custodian of minerals that belong to a corporate supply chain. The $62 billion in lost resource value every year is a gap the big players are determined to close. And they're going to close it by making sure that trash never leaves their ecosystem. The race for resources has moved from the Earth's crust to your living room. The world's largest pension funds and commodity strategists are already betting on this circular economy as a trillion-dollar asset class. They know where the gold is. It's in that drawer, it's in your pocket, and the race to reclaim it has already begun. Now, here's the part I want you to think about. If the world's most powerful companies are willing to spend billions just to track and retrieve a few grams of metal from your old devices, what does that tell you about the true value of what you're holding? And more importantly, if you're the one who paid for those minerals in the first place, why are you being charged a fee just to stand on the property while they mine it? Think about that next time you see a free recycling bin at the electronics store. Who's really getting the better end of that deal?